Today we're going to talk here about the strangest, or let's say the most different religions around the world. Trust me, some are truly unique. They include famous soccer players, spaghetti, flying, and even Jedi. Before talking about Frisbeetarianism, we have to talk a little about the founder of this religion, who is a comedian, an American named George Dennis Patrick Carlin. His humor was social criticism, which I mentioned because of Carlin. Even though he apparently grew up Catholic and was also educated in parochial schools, he kind of didn't like anything about this religion thing. So much so that he used to say in his own words, quote, "Religion is the biggest nonsense of all," unquote.
Big-time major league bullshit of the all-time champion of false promises and exaggerated claims, religion, no contact.
Of course, he used to joke about it and said that he even created his own religion, Frisbeetarianism. If you look closely, you'll notice Frisbee at the start of that name. And yes, it's the same Frisbee you see in movies, which usually appears in a scene. When the director has nothing to show, then he puts someone in the park throwing a Frisbee for a dog to catch. And in this, Carlin would say in a mocking tone that this was his religion, Frisbeetarianism. He called it Frisbeetarianism. He described it as a soul thrown onto a roof, left there forever, never to be retrieved. It sounds a bit like a purgatory, actually. Maybe Carlin didn't leave his Catholic roots that far behind after all. Remember, if you like this kind of video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel because there's a new video every week. Please like and share the video, it really helps me out. So hit that like button if you can. Let's go. Noalpinism was founded by Dwight D. York, who was a criminal with several crimes, some of which we can't even mention here. But anyway, he also founded several other groups that mainly focused on black Muslims. Music.
The leader is identified in the literature as Malachi Zadok York, the great supreme master. He is described as a charismatic speaker.
But later on, he started to mix in some things like Judaism, Christianity, unidentified flying object religions, cryptozoology, and even the Anunnaki theory. I've already discussed this on the channel. For more info, check the card above or the description. Well, he called his group for the last time the Nuwaubian nation, or United Nuwaubian Nation, of Moors, or simply Nuwaubians. Music.
Culture has a connection there. So if you say we're cultured in the sense that we found a culture that works for us, yes.
Duarte was a black supremacist, meaning he believed, or believes if still alive, that black people are superior to other races. And of course, this ended up influencing the ideas of the religion he founded. The Southern Poverty Law Center, a legal advocacy organization specializing in civil rights and public interest litigation. It described the belief system of the Nuwaubians as mixing ideas of black supremacy with the worship of Egyptians and their pyramids, a belief in UFOs, and various conspiracies related to the Illuminati and the Bilderbergers. They quoted York's letter, dated November 10, 2004, as saying the following: "The Caucasian was not chosen to lead the world. They lack real emotion in creation. We never intended for them to be peaceful. They were created to be killers with low levels of reproduction and a short lifespan." Another theory of Noalpic racial origin says that Caucasians descend from Cain. Adam and Eve were sent to the Aegean Islands between Asia and Europe, where they began to have children, and the first child of each couple was an albino. These albinos are called Cain in the Bible, and Cain is short for Caucasian. So these are some pretty heavy ideas from what I saw that I won't even talk about here either. But for example, there's the thing about burying vetoes so that they grow and live where they are gathered and organized to dominate the world. Things like that. Well, but the main idea involves a spell called Leviathan. The main purpose of the Nuwaubian doctrine was to neutralize what they called the No Leviathan spell, the Kingu spell. In Nuwaubian mythology, Leviathan is a god associated with the moon, sex, and spirit, and is also known as Osphir, Sinset, Toph, Shiva, Hermes, Poseidon, and the biblical serpent. Nuwaubians believe devils cast Leviathan's spell thousands of years ago to hypnotize black people, putting them in spiritual ignorance and racial indifference through means such as the Bible and certain elements of popular culture. I'm referring to the Jedi teachings from Star Wars. I know you must think I'm lying, that I must have made this up, but if you Google it, you'll see. In an article from Universal Online, it says that just like the Frisbee religion, it seems that Jediism also started as a joke. Back in 2001, when several people registered their religion as Jedi in national censuses, after a worldwide email campaign spread requests for people to write Jedi as the answer to the question about religious classification in their countries. This resulted in the so-called Jedi census phenomenon. The 2001 census in the United Kingdom revealed that 390,000 people declared their religion as Jedi, which would make it the fourth largest religion in the United Kingdom after Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. There are an estimated 70,000 Jedi Knight teachers in Australia, 53,000 in New Zealand, and 20,000 in Canada. The real-world Jedi movement doesn't have a founder or a structure, although they consider George Lucas as a sort of pope of the religion. The first temple appeared in England in 2007 at the home of chemist Daniel Jones, who also dedicates his time to writing books about this religion, about Jediism. And the movement can also be considered a type of philosophy, in addition to a religion. Jedis believe in the Force as a natural concept, based on the idea that God is immeasurable and unnameable. The Jediist religion has been developed based on comparative theories regarding a very particular kind of humanism, using precise characteristics. In other cultures, religions, and philosophies, like Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, and the European monastic movement, it has organization, hierarchy, symbols, rituals, and supernatural beliefs. In the case of the Force, it kind of presents itself as a religion. It doesn't require exclusivity, so members can be Catholics and Jedis, Umbandists and Jedis, or even atheists and Jedis. If you search on Google, you'll find the Temple of the Jedi Order website, which discusses this in more detail. The Aghoris are a Hindu sect believed to be over 1,000 years old. They claim these followers are holy men devoted to liberation, which is fairly common in religions. However, the Aghoris have a very different and dark path to reach this liberation. These practices contradict Orthodox Hinduism. And the Aghoris have gained the reputation of being the sadhus, which is another way of saying holy man, who are the most feared in India. However, they are also highly respected. Who in fact are the Aghoris, and what are the practices that made them gain this reputation of being feared? Well, the Aghoris worship Shiva, also known as Mahakala, who is considered the destroyer, and Shakti or Kali. The Aghoris are usually found staying near cremation sites, especially in Varanasi. However, they can also be found in much more remote areas, including the cold caves of the Himalayas, the dense jungles of Bengal, and the hot deserts of Gujarat. According to the beliefs of the Aghoris, liberation can be achieved by adopting practices that are considered taboo by Orthodox Hinduism. Furthermore, they believe that when these practices are done correctly, faster spiritual progress can be achieved. The path of the Aghoris is certainly very frightening, as those who are unable to perform their practices properly risk becoming even more firmly bound to the wheel of existence. The Aghoris are most known for practicing cannibalism. Of course, it's not like that. They don't go around killing people and having a barbecue afterwards. Instead, it's the flesh from corpses brought to the cremation grounds that they consume. This human flesh is usually eaten raw, although sometimes it's roasted because of the fire. The Aghoris believe that extinction is just an illusion and an obstacle on the path of one's spiritual development. They see no distinction between good and evil, or between human and animal flesh. The juice of corpse flesh, therefore, is an affirmation of the Aghoris' belief system. Besides human flesh, the Aghoris also drink urine and eat feces. These practices are supposedly meant to kill the ego and enable human perception of beauty. In 2005, in the United States, listen up, this is a great story. Well, people wanted to make it mandatory to teach creationism in schools, alongside evolutionism. Creationism is the belief that the universe was made by a divine being, while evolutionism refers to the evolution of species. In other words, these two things would be combined and taught together. Of course, there were people who wouldn't agree with that, like Bob. This is Bob Henderson, who published an open letter to the Kansas Board of Education asked for his supposed religious beliefs to also be included in this subject. So, in this development, according to what Bob explained in the message, he believed that the universe was created by a flying spaghetti monster. What if creationism was taught in classrooms? It was only fair for him that the same treatment be given to the teachings of his religion, the so-called Pastafarianism. In the letter, he said the following: "Some find it hard to believe, so it might be helpful for you to know a little more about our beliefs. We have evidence that a flying spaghetti monster created the universe. None of us, of course, was around to see it happen. But we have written texts about it. We have several long volumes explaining all the details about his power. It turns out that the religion grew, and nowadays it even has a website where it says it has existed for centuries. The website claims that its beliefs are based on pure science, and that anything that seems like humor or satire is just a mere coincidence." Another important element within the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster is the so-called pirates, described as the original Pastafarians. That's why followers of this religion dress as pirates. According to the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monsters website, its congregation doesn't charge its followers. Every Friday is a religious holiday, and after death, followers go to a paradise where there is a beer volcano. The Church of the SubGenius is a parody or satirical religion in relation to other beliefs. It teaches a complex philosophy which focuses on Dr. Bob Dobbs, supposedly a salesman from the 1950s, who is revered as the prophet of the church. SubGenius leaders created detailed stories about Dobbs and his ties to gods and conspiracies. Their main deity is Jehovah, one whom Dobbs is said to have seen on a television he built himself. This deity is joined by gods from other popular fiction works. The literature of the SubGenius describes a great conspiracy that seeks to brainwash the world of Dobbs's early followers. In its narratives, the church represents a mixture of cultural references drawn from various other sources. Van Stank, who co-founded the church in the 1970s, acts as the publicity leader. He imitated actions of other religious leaders, using the Kutcher Jamie tactic, the attempt to parody well-known religions. Church leaders advise followers to avoid mainstream commercialism and belief in absolute truths. The group advocates for the quality of Slack, which is extremely important, but is never clearly defined. The number of followers is unknown, though the church's message has resonated with college students and artists in the United States. The group is often compared to Discordianism. Journalists often consider the church to be an elaborate joke, but some academics have defended it as a true system of deeply rooted beliefs. Besides Dobbs, there are other deities, which are usually mutant aliens or even well-known deities from other religions or other things. For example, books like Yog-Sothoth from Lovecraft, Eris from Greek mythology, and Shofar. This is actually very famous. It's the church they made to worship the player, Diego Maradona from Argentina, founded on October 30, 1998, in the city of Rosario by Argentine fans. They decided to consider Maradona's birthday as Christmas. They formed a church with prayers and commandments, registering followers in several countries. Argentina, Spain, and Mexico have the most believers. The religion uses a sacred tetragram, Dios, with 10 replacing the idol and incorporating the Spanish word for God. It features the D for Diego Maradona and his jersey number, 10. The calendar is based on Maradona's birth, using AD and after Diego to mean before and after Diego Maradona. People from around the world gathered at a religious parish to celebrate Argentine soccer player Diego Maradona. As their god, they have their own Bible, called the 10 Commandments of the Maradonian Church are as follows. The ball isn't stained, as God said. Your tribute, love soccer above all. Declare your unconditional love for Diego and for good soccer. Defend the Argentine jersey while respecting others. Share Diego's miracles across the universe and honor the temples he played in and his sacred jerseys. Do not proclaim Diego in the name of a single club. Preach the principles of the Maradonian Church. Take Diego as your middle name and give it to your son. Don't be hot-headed and don't lose your temper. Don't live far from reality and don't be useless. If you watched the video up to this point, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, because it helps me a lot, and if possible, hype up the video. If you leave a like and give me around 90 points, I might move up in the ranking. If you have more video ideas, leave them in the comments. Thanks. See you next time. Bye.